And finally, there is the holy grail of better physical and mental health, a good night's sleep. This is part 3 of our series on body and soul. Welcome to the Mental Health Podcast. I'm Kevin Frangish. So far in this series, we've talked about better nutrition, better movement, both of which I invite you to go back and listen to. Today, sleep. Raise your hand if you didn't get a good night's sleep last night. Yeah, that's what I thought. Lots of hands. We not only need to sleep, but we need to sleep better. This may, in fact, push your depression and anxiety over the edge if you don't get a good sleep and make it overwhelming. Well, fear not, Canada's sleep guru is here. So get on a pair of comfy pajamas, brush your teeth, and get ready to sleep smart right now on the Mental Health Podcast. Alana McGinn, founder and lead sleep expert at goodnightsleepsite.com. She's helped thousands with their slumber, even offering courses on sleep. Hi, Alana. Are you feeling rested?
I am feeling rested. How are you doing?
Honestly, did you get a good sleep?
I did. My sleep is pretty good. Now, listen, I'm human. I have bad nights, but last night was a good one.
Do we really need courses on how to sleep?
Well, we need, when we look at sleep, when we look at bettering our sleep health, we have to look at it like nutrition, like moving your body, right? A lot of it is lifestyle. A lot of it is habit changing, and putting together a sleep plan is no different than putting together a nutritional plan or a workout plan. And some people just need a little bit of help with that. Not just putting together the plan, but also then being accountable and consistent, right? We know that in any aspect of our health, accountability and consistency is always key.
We are going to touch on so much coming up. And of course, we're going to round things up with tricks to get a better sleep, things you may not have thought of. I mean, we've all thought of we've always been told about preparing your sleep area, but I will tell you, Alana is an expert at it. But first, I want to talk about mental health to begin with. To not get a good night's sleep, if you have depression, if you have anxiety, any mental health issues, this just makes things worse by not having the proper sleep.
100%. So when we look at poor sleep, poor sleep doesn't cause mental issues and mental health issues, but it definitely can heighten any symptom that an individual might be feeling. So when they are putting together their mental health plan to better their mental health, sleep is normally a big component of that plan. I work a lot with adults, I work a lot with babies, but because I work a lot with babies and kids, I work a lot with parents and moms who suffer from maybe postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety. And just seeing the difference in their voice and in their mental health at the end of us working together, once their children start sleeping better and therefore they are sleeping better, is night and day. So sleep definitely should be part of that mental health plan.
Why is my depression so intensified if I haven't had a good night's sleep? And the answer may seem obvious, but what's happening up in my brain?
Well, when we look at a tired brain, an overtired brain, we don't have the mental clarity. We don't have the perfect cognitive abilities. We're not able to, we're feeling groggy and foggy. Just how it affects our day-to-day life. Not talking about how it can affect future health risks, like things like stroke, obesity, diabetes. But if we just look at the mental health standpoint, a brain that isn't able to function as rested as it should be, isn't able to function well. The issue that we get with individuals who suffer from maybe depression or anxiety is when we are overtired, when we aren't sleeping well, chances are we are up multiple times throughout the night. And it's during those times throughout the night where distractions are gone. See, during the day, it's easy for us to distract ourselves of our stressors, of our anxieties, of our anxious thoughts and worries, because we can keep ourselves busy. But when you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and we don't have those distractions around us, that is when our brain tends to flood, right? That's when we tend to think all of the ruminating thoughts that keep us up throughout the night and that add to our depression and to our anxieties.
Is insomnia a mental illness itself?
Insomnia is a sleep disorder. So a sleep disorder isn't necessarily a mental illness. A sleep disorder can heighten a mental illness, but insomnia is a leading sleep disorder. I always think it's important to categorize both insomnia and sleep deprivation, because I feel like the word insomnia gets thrown around a little bit too easily. So, if you have a bad night of sleep or a bad couple nights of sleep.
Oh, I had insomnia last night. Yeah.
I have insomnia, exactly. Everyone can have bouts of acute insomnia. That's what I said at the beginning of the podcast. Listen, I'm human. There's some nights I don't sleep well for whatever reason. It happens, right? But those individuals who are suffering from chronic insomnia, I always say think 3 and 3. So it's 3 nights or more per week for 3 months or longer, where you have the inability to fall asleep when you want to fall asleep. So someone who has insomnia wants to sleep. They just can't do it. They can't do it. They can't either fall asleep at bedtime, or they can't fall asleep if they wake up in the middle of the night, and they are super hyper fixated on it. Someone who has sleep deprivation maybe understands they need to sleep better, but isn't really putting sleep as an important value in their life. So they're suffering from a sleep debt because they're just not putting any importance in their sleep health. We all can be sleep deprived at times. Doesn't mean you have insomnia.
Sleep debt. You just said sleep debt. What is that?
So sleep debt is the amount. So we all have our own personal baseline of sleep, our own personal basal sleep needs. A sleep debt is when we are not getting the right amount of sleep consistently that our body needs. So I kind of look at it as like a bank debt, right? We have a bank debt of $10. You could have a sleep debt of 10 hours, meaning you have a 10 hours loss of sleep. We can't erase the sleep debt and often this is what people think, is just by sleeping in on a Saturday or a Sunday, I can make up for all that lost sleep that I had during the week of going to bed late and waking up early to go to work. But sleeping that extra hour on a Saturday or that extra hour on a Sunday, let's look at it like $10 debt. We're putting in $1 or $2. That doesn't erase the debt, right? So it takes 24 hours to erase 1 hour loss of sleep. Nope. So you can erase your sleep debt, but you have to chip away at it, and you have to really focus on getting the appropriate amount of sleep for your own personal sleep needs.
Okay, here is what happened to me yesterday, and I'm thinking a lot of people will identify with this. I had not had a good sleep the night before. Sunday night into Monday morning is when we're recording this. I was very tired at work, and I kept saying to myself, I'm going to make sure I have a good sleep tonight. Well, got ready for bed. I was a little tired, got into bed, and then I started looking at my phone. Went down the YouTube rabbit hole. Before long, it was midnight. What happened? What did I do? Why did that tiredness not make me go to sleep?
I mean, it happens to all of us. It happens to everybody, right? And that is, here's my thoughts on tech, and I'll just briefly kind of touch on it.
Do not tell me I can't take tech to bed.
I'm not going to. And that's where maybe my tune has changed since when we first met and we first started talking. Mm-hmm. Is that was my message, was keep tech out of the bedroom, right? Here's the thing: tech is the biggest sleep buster in our lives. It is why we are such a sleep deprived society, and we are 100% a sleep deprived society. That being said, using your situation as an example, the old Alana would say, keep tech out of the bedroom. It's the biggest sleep buster. And if you're listening to this and you really know that you need to make some serious changes to your sleep health, you're not sleeping well, you need to put a sleep plan together, that is the best thing you can do, is remove it completely out of your bedroom, in all honesty. Set a tech curfew of 60 minutes before you go to sleep, do all the things. But if you're listening to this and you're like, I need to make some changes, using your situation as an example, I would just recommend that you set boundaries on what tech you're allowing in at bedtime, because some tech can help, and B, just set boundaries on how much. So, those evening hours for many of us, I mean, that's why I don't know if you remember, Kevin, a couple of years ago, there was something like it was bedtime procrastination revenge, or revenge bedtime procrastination. And basically, it was this theory that, moms especially, I will say, we're fighting bedtime and using that bedtime to stream and go on the internet and do all the things they want to do on their phones, because that was the only time that they got, right? Those evening hours, once we're done our jobs, chores are done, kids are asleep, house is cleaned, we have those few hours to ourselves where we don't have to answer to anyone, where we could just do whatever we want to do. So I always felt really bad telling people, don't watch your favorite show, don't go on social, like, don't do all the things you really want to do. But you have to set boundaries. So when you get into bed, rather than falling down the YouTube rabbit hole for the next 3 hours, just say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to watch a video or two, and then I'm going to shut down and go to bed. The video that I watch is not one that's going to amp up my stress and anxiety. If, as you know, news, right? It's triggering. If headlines are triggering, maybe don't watch that right before you go to bed. If there's certain people that you text with and stuff that don't fill your tank, those are not the people to connect with before you go to bed. Connect with the ones that fill your tank. If there's a show that makes you feel like light and fluffy and airy and helps you forget the day, watch an episode or two. Just don't stream the entire season till 2:00 in the morning. So, we have to really set those boundaries. And this is where it goes back to habit changing and lifestyle changing and putting that sleep plan together and committing to it the same way you commit to getting up early and working out and, not eating junk the next day for lunch. We have to commit to it in the same way.
Tell me about a sleep plan. What does that look like?
So a sleep plan would consist of a few things. It depends on, what you're really trying to better for your sleep health and to what degree you are. A typical sleep plan that I would put together for a client would consist of steps of sleep hygiene. So sleep hygiene are the steps and practices that an individual takes in order to sleep well. And these are just very simple lifestyle changes, habit changes that an individual would have. So things like, following consistent sleep patterns, trying to go to bed at the same time every night, at least 80% of the time, waking up at the same time every morning, really focusing on going to bed when you actually feel tired, not just when you feel like you should go to bed, setting up a great sleep environment, maybe not drinking so much alcohol before you go to sleep, avoiding heavy meals, like all of those types of things, removing tech if need be, all of those, incorporating a great bedtime routine. The other part of a sleep plan would be what I call like your emotional relationship with sleep. And this gets into, especially those that are dealing with perhaps insomnia, or perhaps have had a long-term struggle with sleep, and therefore they have a very negative relationship about sleep. So they're going to bed thinking, I know I'm not going to sleep well tonight. I know I'm going to feel tired the next day. That doesn't help us fall asleep any better. So it's like we have to shift our mindset into a more positive mindset towards sleep. So do we include things like positive affirmation? Do we include things, choosing different mantras and saying them positively to ourselves about sleep? Do we include certain cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI, therapies like stimulus control or sleep restriction? And I mean, I can get into more detail about
what are those?
So stimulus control is where and this is where I said, really focusing on going to bed when you actually feel tired. It's strengthening the association between sleep and your bed. So what I mean by that is that if you can't sleep, if you have difficulty falling asleep, so maybe you fall asleep great at bedtime, but then you wake up at say 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and you're tossing and you're turning and it's taking you longer than 15 to 20 minutes to fall asleep. This is where, for stimulus control, you would get out of bed and go into a different room and try a quiet activity and then try to fall asleep again. So the goal of this is to shorten sleep onset in your bed and spend more sleep time in bed. This is why we want to avoid doing things like working in bed and scrolling on TikTok in bed and like spending too much awake time in bed. Now there's like, our generation, is it Z? Generation Z is adopting like what's called bed rotting, where they just spend all day in bed. That weakens that association because now we're associating being awake in our bed. Sleep restriction is where we're working with bedtime. So, if an individual perhaps is going to bed at, say, 9 o'clock at night, but then waking up consistently at 3 o'clock in the morning, well, that's about 6 to 7, I'm trying to do the math, 6 to 7 hours of sleep. Do we need to, and it's taking them a long time to fall asleep at night, do we need to move their bedtime later? So we would actually push it out much later till maybe midnight, maybe even 1 o'clock in the morning, so that, again, they're starting to fall asleep a lot easier in their bed, and then we can slowly push it back to a more reasonable bedtime. So it is a bigger, I'm kind of giving you the Coles notes on both, but those are certain therapies that someone who's really struggling with sleep and struggling with insomnia would work with a sleep therapist to do.
I can't fall asleep. How long do I wait?
15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, 15 to 20 minutes, and then get out of bed and do a quiet activity. And listen, no one wants to do that at 3 o'clock in the morning. I understand. But it's not a forever thing. And you might have to do it multiple times throughout the night. It's like a yo-yo effect, right? But the more you do it, the easier it's going to be for you to fall asleep in bed. And therefore, the next night, the easier it'll be for you to fall asleep when you get into bed.
And this is a question I hear from a lot from people, is I wake up, to go to the washroom or middle of the night, and I can't get back to sleep. What's the trick to going back to sleep?
Well, I mean, you could not be falling back to sleep for a few reasons. One is, your mind is racing. I mean, we hear that all the time. My mind starts racing. I start thinking about everything. I have a lot of difficulty quieting my mind. This is where a lot of what we do during the day can really help us sleep better at night. And often when our mind is racing at night, again, those distractions are gone. So it's a lot easier for us to do that. We haven't given ourselves enough time throughout the day to work through what we have to work through. I'm not going to tell people like, don't stress out, don't have anxious thoughts, don't have worries. Like, we're human, it's going to happen. But we have to allow ourselves time throughout the day to work through those thoughts so that we're not going to try and work through it at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's actually a method called constructive worry. I call it productive thinking, productive thought, where you're taking time throughout the day to stress out, but constructively. So, something as simple as just 2 or 3 minutes throughout the day, taking a piece of paper, drawing a line in the middle of it. On one side, you write down the problem, whatever problem that might be. And you might have multiple problems, but choose the one that's really plaguing you. On the other side of the piece of paper, you're writing out certain solutions to solve the problem. You don't have to solve the problem in that moment, but it could be something like sourcing more information or booking a phone call, making an appointment, that type of thing, finding out resources, and then put that piece of paper away until the next day, so that when you do wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and your mind, and that problem's going to pop into your head, because again, we're human, it's going to happen. And then, you can think to yourself, now is not the time to work on this problem. I took time today and I will take more time tomorrow. And again, it's all about shifting that mindset and changing the way we think. And that takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. On the flip side, if you are someone who gets out of bed because they have to go to the bathroom often, could it be, do we need to limit our liquids before we go to sleep? Do we have maybe something like sleep apnea, which is another leading sleep disorder? If you are a snorer, a mouth breather, and I'm talking like wall rattling snoring, like you can, you literally stop breathing throughout the night. Always ask the person sleeping beside you. Often we wake up and then we feel like we have to go to the bathroom, but we actually don't have to go to the bathroom. It's just because we're waking up because we're not breathing. So is there a bigger problem? There's different reasons why you wake up in the middle of the night consistently to go to the bathroom.
Falling asleep in front of the television. A lot of people do that. They just want that noise. And if you go and you turn the television off, they wake up. Mm-hmm. That's not good.
No, I mean, sounds, when you have consistent sounds like a white noise sound, a nature sound, that sound isn't as habit forming. It's very easy to remove that sound. But when you have different frequencies in music or TV, that tends to keep us in that lighter state of sleep, so that when it gets shut off, we tend to wake up. So, a lot of people will say, well, I'll listen to music before I go to sleep, or I need the TV on before to go to sleep. It's okay to need sound on to fall asleep, but I just prefer a more consistent sound. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a static sound, but it could be, nature, waterfall, rainfall, babbling brook, whatever, airplane, just that consistent sound, because that, lulls you into a deeper state of sleep. And if it does get turned off, you tend to not wake up as much.
Let's look at the other side of the sleep coin, waking up. How do I wake up better? I think that's the hardest part of sleep is getting out of that nice, warm, comfy bed.
Yeah, I love that you asked this question, because for me, the morning wake up and your morning routine is more important than your bedtime routine and sleeping better. And often we think about sleeping better, we just think about what do we need to do at night to sleep well, right? But so much of what we do in the morning, like I said, in the morning and during the day, is going to help us sleep better. So when I look at that morning routine, the number one thing is you want to keep some consistency in that wake up time. Again, at least 80% of the time. Really focus on, I would rather someone keep a consistent wake time over a consistent bedtime. Of course, I don't want your bedtime too late. I don't want it too early. I want that consistency in bedtime. But if you can keep that consistent morning time, that is going to help you sleep better. And the reason why that is because it's going to help start building your drive for sleep throughout the day. And there's a few ways that we do that. So when we look at our sleep drive, your sleep drive is what is the pressure that you're adding that is going to help you fall asleep throughout the day, that is going to help you fall asleep better at night. So look at your sleep drive as like a gas tank, as your sleep tank. Throughout the day, we want to be filling that tank to full. So it's nice and full. That's going to help us fall asleep better and stay asleep a lot better throughout the night. Ways to do that is waking up consistently. I always, ask people, Sunday nights tend to be the worst nights of sleep for many.
Mhm.
A lot of it is because of Sunday scaries, right? You're thinking of the week, but a lot of it is also because you slept in a little bit on Saturday, you slept in a little bit on Sunday, you haven't given your body and mind enough time to fill that sleep tank nice and full, right? So, keeping that consistency in morning waking and morning wake time, immersing yourself in that natural light. So opening up the blinds, letting that natural light in, that is going to help suppress our melatonin. It's going to help raise our cortisol levels. Our cortisol levels aren't always bad. We want certain, them at a certain level throughout the day. That's going to help us wake up naturally. And then we want to get our body moving. That is a great way to fill that sleep tank. Physical activity, as you know, is so important for overall health and mental health and wellness. 30 minutes a day, 150 minutes a week. It doesn't have to be like a marathon and a jog and a HIIT class, because I won't do those things.
And I'm not going to be there either. Okay.
Yeah, it could just be a walk. It could be light stretching. It could be yoga. It could be some things like just move your body. It could be cleaning your house, whatever, working in the garden. Just get outside, get in that fresh air and move your body. That is a great way. Sedentary life is a killer for so many reasons, and it kills our sleep for sure. So move your body.
So I guess it's like anything else. It's habit forming. That it's going to be tough to get up as soon as the alarm clock rings for the first little while, but supposedly it gets better.
I mean, it does. And the snooze button is a big one too, right? So, a lot of people listening to this, when I say we remove tech, a lot of people are going to say, well, my phone is my alarm clock, which I understand. Many of us, our phone is our alarm clocks. If you can have make sure that your phone isn't the last thing you're looking at before you go to sleep and the first thing you're checking when you wake up in the morning. So if it's your alarm, great, right? Turn it off and move on with your day. Don't then pick up your phone, check your email, check your socials, check all your thing. Give yourself 30 minutes when you wake up in the morning before checking in to the chaos of the world, because that's just starting your day with that chaos, right? So use those 30 minutes to move your body, get outside, have a quiet cup of coffee, bond with your kids, bond with your partner, do what you have to do before letting in everything else. And then watch that snooze button. That snooze button kind of lulls you into that next cycle of sleep every 9 minutes, but you're waking up in what's called sleep inertia. It's like a sleep hangover. You're waking up in a very groggy and foggy state, more tired probably than you were when the alarm originally went off. And because you're feeling that groggy and fogginess, you're thinking, well, I mustn't have slept well last night because now I'm feeling it. It doesn't dictate how you slept the night before. It just dictates that you're hitting the snooze button too much. So if it means setting your alarm and moving it across the room, so you have to physically get out of bed to turn it off, to make it easier to get out of bed, I mean, that's a great step to take too.
It may be hard to believe, seeing as, we've slept since the beginning of time, but researchers are still learning about sleep and why we need it, why we dream. What's the latest research telling us about sleep right now?
Well, I mean, there's so much in terms of when we look at things like, oh my God, now I'm blanking on the name of it. When we look at things like Alzheimer's and dementia, when we're sleeping, our brain is able to kind of flush away a lot of toxin buildups when we're sleeping well and getting the right amount of sleep. And more studies now are showing that loss of sleep and not getting the right amount of sleep and right quality, it's quantity and quality, tends to have that toxic buildup in our brain that are showing that, future health risks of that could be things like Alzheimer's and dementia. So there's a lot of health related risks. And I don't like talking about this too much because I don't want someone to think if you've had a bad night of sleep right away, you're now prone to get that. Like, that's not what I'm saying. These are individuals who haven't been sleeping well for a long period of time. So it's never too late to start bettering your sleep health. And again, I don't like talking about certain health or future health risks because someone who's struggling with sleep, a big part of why they're struggling with sleep is because they're hyperfixated on not sleeping well. And now
Yeah.
about those things doesn't help, right?
Yeah, because you're rolling around there and you're going, okay, Alana said I should be asleep within 10 or 15 minutes. How long has it been? I think it's been 3 minutes. Okay, not bad. Wait, it's been 7 minutes now. I'm still not asleep. I'm still thinking.
Exactly. So, take what, things like I know I'm kind of going off topic here, but take like things like what your sleep tracker is saying and stuff like that with a grain of salt. And just really like, how are you feeling day to day when you wake up in the morning throughout the day? When you aren't sleeping well, when you're not getting enough sleep that your body needs. The amount of sleep that I need, Kevin, it could be different than the amount of sleep that you need.
So not just 8 hours.
It's not just 7 to 8 hours. No, I push it out normally to 6 to 9. If you're sleeping less than 6, you're probably not sleeping enough. If you're sleeping more than 9, that could be other issues that we might need to talk about. Things like, individuals who suffer from depression and certain mental illness tend to sleep more. So there could be a bigger issue going on, but 6 to 9, anywhere between 6 to 9, is adequate. And then just how do you feel? And that should tell you. So again, we're seeing in more and more studies, we're seeing, what exactly is going on in our bodies when we're sleeping and what could be a result of not sleeping well because of that.
And just wrapping up here, the way you've been talking about sleep, it ties in with mental health. You're talking about mindfulness. You're talking about being present. You're talking about, not worrying, about writing your worries down. This very much is a mental health issue.
It is. I'm actually in the midst right now of putting together, really focusing more on stress management, and putting together, and especially for midlife women, because we go through so many life changes, like whether it be, we're in the sandwich generation, whether it be career changes, whether it be menopause, whether it be relationship changes. you see a result of not being able to manage stress levels. And obviously there's a correlation between that and sleeping well or not sleeping well. It's huge, right? It's not just like set up a great environment, remove tech, and go to bed at the same time. Like sometimes it's not as easy as that. There's other things we need to incorporate. So absolutely, sleep loss and poor mental health go hand in hand for sure.
Very quick question. Sleeping pills, melatonin, sleep aids, things like that. What's good, what's bad?
So something like melatonin, I think, can play a role for some people. So I'm not going to say no to it because there's some individuals who suffer from things like, if they're traveling a lot and going through different time zones, or they suffer from circadian rhythm disorders, or certain medications. There's more and more adults now being diagnosed with ADHD, with certain ADHD medications, with kids. We see where melatonin can play a role with that. That should be prescribed to you, though, by either a doctor or naturopath who is going to prescribe the proper dose and supplement and release form. The problem with melatonin is because it's marketed as a sleeping pill, it's not actually a sleeping pill. It helps regulate your circadian rhythms, which helps drive us to sleep better and to fall asleep or wake up. So people are taking it before doing anything else. I see more and more kids taking it, babies even taking it. What we have to understand is this is a hormone. It's a supplemental hormone that chances are you're not deficient in. We don't know the long-term effects. There's not enough studies that show long-term effects of children using melatonin. So it's not something that I would recommend doing before trying other ways to release our melatonin naturally, which is darkening up the environment, using our external environment. But things like magnesium, again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't prescribe anything, but things like magnesium could be a great supplement to add. Again, speaking to your doctor, your naturopath, if that's a good route. It helps calm the body and mind. It helps put you in a more relaxing state to go to bed. Yeah.
Okay, Alana McGinn, founder and lead sleep expert at goodnightsleepsite.com. Her website, by the way, is a great place to start. There's all sorts of sleep programs. You also have a guide, Are You Ready to Sleep Train? It's a free download about sleep training your baby. Oh my gosh, after 4 kids, I remember that. So much useful information, and sleep is everything. It ties everything together. We talked about good food, we talked about good movement, but it all gets tied together with sleep. I find if I don't have a good sleep, I have no motivation to do anything else. So Alana, thank you so much for this time and great advice.
Thanks so much for having me, Kevin.
All right. Well, I hope this gives you some food for thought. And as Alana said, this is not a thing that is going to happen overnight. Literally, it's going to take some time, but it takes that first step. So yes, you have slept on the couch for years. You have not gone to bed more than 2 or 3 hours for years. These are all things that we can change through habits. And by really engaging our parasympathetic nervous system to sort of take control. Right now, if you're having trouble sleeping, you're not getting the right kind of sleep, you're waking up and being tired all day long. These are all things you can actually, in most cases, change yourself through habit, but not overnight. It may take a week. It takes 3 weeks for a habit to take hold for most people. It could take a month, could take 2 months, but every step you take, every night you start to try and get a better sleep, that's one step closer to getting that good sleep. And we know, I think every single one of us knows who has trouble sleeping, that what it feels like to get a good night's sleep. And you wake up and you're refreshed in the morning. Imagine feeling that way most mornings. It is possible. So I suggest Alana's site, goodnightsleepsite.com. I also suggest talking to your doctor, talking to a naturopath, talking to a pharmacist. I suggest making it part of your mental health regime. If you are into meditation or not yet into meditation, you're going to get into it, or you are working on your depression and anxiety, put sleep in part of that plan. I know, like I had said to Alana, I know that the next morning, if I have not had a good sleep, I don't feel like doing anything, including eating better. I have crappy breakfasts if I don't have a good sleep. I have a good sleep, I have a good, healthy breakfast, and I seem to have energy all day long. So I wish you well. Maybe my talking right now is putting you to sleep. If it is, hey, any port in a storm, right? So that is our Body and Soul series. Once again, I invite you to go back and look at or listen to our podcast on better nutrition and better movement. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the Mental Health Podcast. If you have any thoughts about this episode or suggestions for future episodes, please send me an email at thementalhealthpodcast@ontarioshores.ca. Please don't be alone. Reach out for professional help. For more resources and advice, check out our website, ontarioshores.ca. The Mental Health Podcast is a production of Ontario Shores Centre for Mental Health Sciences. I'm Kevin Frankish. Take care of yourself and take care of each other.